The city lay beneath a pale sky, its houses white as bone, its streets filled with the smell of oranges and wood smoke. From the towers of the Alhambra, the last sultans of Al-Andalus looked down upon a kingdom shrinking by the day. The armies of Ferdinand and Isabella, the Catholic monarchs, had pressed for months. Encampments of Christian soldiers burned like a ring of fire around Granada, their banners snapping in the cold wind. For those inside the city, the air was heavy with fear. Bread grew scarce, water was rationed, and every night the people whispered of betrayal. In a narrow alley behind the old silk market, a young woman hurried with her cloak drawn tight. Layla bint Omar, daughter of a calligrapher, carried something heavier than food or gold, a folded letter written by her father before he vanished into the chaos of war. The letter said little, yet everything. If Granada falls, memory must not. What is lost in stone, preserve in ink. She did not understand all its meaning, but she knew one thing. Beneath the Alhambra there were secret libraries, manuscripts hidden from enemies who would burn them. Her father's last words hinted that the knowledge of centuries lay beneath those silent walls. And now, with the city trembling on the edge of surrender, Layla felt it was her duty to find them. That night, Layla lit a small oil lamp in her family's abandoned workshop. The walls still smelled of ink, though the shelves were empty, her father's manuscripts taken or destroyed in raids. She spread the letter on the table. Her father's handwriting was steady, even in farewell. Beneath the main line he had sketched a faint drawing, an archway carved in stone, marked with a symbol she recognized, the pomegranate emblem of Granada. Her hands trembled. She had grown up beneath those arches of the Alhambra, listening to travelers speak of its wonders. Halls lined with stars carved into ceilings, courtyards where fountains whispered, gardens heavy with jasmine. But she had also heard of the tunnels beneath, where servants once carried water, and where older passages had been sealed with stone long before her birth. Layla pressed the letter to her chest. If her father had hidden the knowledge of their people, she could not let it be swallowed by silence. She would find the place. But the walls outside shook with the footsteps of soldiers. Already the last sultan, Boabdil, was negotiating surrender. Time was running out. 2 nights later, Layla slipped into the palace grounds under cover of darkness. The air was sharp, her breath a ghost in the cold. Guards patrolled the gates, but she had grown up in these gardens. She knew which fountains hid shadows, which paths led to the kitchens, which doors were seldom locked. Her heart pounded as she pressed through a low wooden door near the stables. Behind it lay a stairwell spiraling into darkness. She lit her small lantern, its flame trembling like her hands. The air grew damp. Walls of ancient stone pressed close. At the bottom of the stairwell, she found an archway, the same shape her father had drawn. Its carving of a pomegranate had nearly faded with age. Her lamp illuminated the passage beyond, where dust lay thick as snow. Cobwebs trembled as she passed. The silence was so complete that her own breathing seemed an intruder. After a dozen steps, she entered a chamber. Her lantern revealed shelves built into the walls, lined with shapes wrapped in cloth. She pulled one free. Beneath the linen lay a manuscript bound in leather, its ink still black though the edges were brittle. Arabic script curved across the page in perfect calligraphy. The words sang with poetry and history, chronicles of kings, verses of Quran, treatises on medicine, astronomy, philosophy. The very soul of Al-Andalus. Layla sank to her knees. Tears blurred her sight. Her father had been right. Here lay centuries of memory. As she read, voices seemed to fill the chamber. She imagined the scholars who had once debated in the great libraries of Córdoba, the poets who had sung in Granada's gardens, the scientists who had charted stars when Europe still stumbled in darkness. The manuscript spoke of what was already gone, and what might soon vanish forever. Yet shadows stirred at the edge of her lantern. A sound, the scrape of a boot. She spun, clutching the lamp. A young man stepped into the chamber, his face half lit by the flame. He wore no soldier's armor, only a wool cloak, dust on his boots. His eyes widened at the sight of the shelves. "You found it," he whispered. Layla froze. "Who are you?" "A friend," he said quickly. "My name is Hassan ibn Tariq. Your father sent me before he disappeared. He feared he would not return. He told me someone must keep the knowledge safe. If not him, then his daughter." Her chest tightened. "You knew my father?" Hassan nodded. "He entrusted me with a second task, to help you." Layla's fingers trembled as she held the manuscript. Could she trust this stranger? But his voice held no malice, only urgency. Together they unwrapped more books. Some were fragile, others heavy with centuries. Hassan's lantern revealed alcoves carved deeper into the stone, filled with scrolls stacked like kindling. But outside, faintly, came another sound, the distant roar of voices. The siege was ending. Granada was surrendering. By dawn, the white flag of surrender would rise above the Alhambra. Layla and Hassan stood among the manuscripts, surrounded by 1,000 years of words. "What do we do?" she whispered. "If the soldiers find this place," Hassan said, "they will burn it all. The libraries of Cordoba burned once. It will happen again." Layla's heart ached. "We cannot carry them all." "No," Hassan said, "but we can carry some, and we can hide the rest." Together they worked quickly, wrapping the most precious manuscripts in cloth, binding them into bundles. Layla chose the works of poetry and philosophy her father had loved. Hassan lifted a heavy tome of medicine, muttering that knowledge of healing must never vanish. They carried the bundles back through the tunnels, hiding them in an abandoned well within the city. As dawn bled across the sky, bells rang from the Christian camp. The last sultan rode out to surrender his keys. From the hills, smoke rose. Soldiers moved into the city. The gates of Granada groaned as they opened. Layla stood with Hassan on the palace wall. Her bundles of manuscripts were hidden, her heart racing. She watched as Ferdinand and Isabella entered with their banners, their soldiers filling the streets where once poets had sung. The Alhambra stood silent, its walls glowing red beneath the morning sun. "Will they ever know what lies beneath their feet?" Layla asked softly. Hassan looked at her. "That depends on us." Layla placed her father's letter against her chest. If Granada falls, memory must not. The city had fallen. But memory still lived. Epilogue. The whisper of walls. Years later, long after the last Moors were driven from Spain, travelers spoke of manuscripts that had surfaced in distant lands. In Fez, in Cairo, even in Istanbul. Books that carried the voices of Granada, saved from the flames. No one knew how they had escaped. Some said servants smuggled them out. Others whispered of a calligrapher's daughter and a young man who vanished the night of surrender. And in the Alhambra, when the night was still, some swore they could hear a woman's footsteps in the old tunnels, carrying a lamp, whispering to the walls, "What is lost in stone, preserve in ink."